Peace and salams. Welcome back to Class with Prof. Eve. In this video, we will discuss whether the discipline of sociology is radical. Radical can be defined as a progression past a liberal perspective and into a more transformative or revolutionary perspective, particularly as it relates to a social system. What is sociology? Sociology is the scientific study of human behavior and the social environment. Sociology looks at society as a social system comprised of interrelated parts and social groups. Sociology offers a critical analysis in that it predominantly views both human behavior and society as social constructions that have been determined by those in power and for their interests. The term sociology is said to have been put forward publicly by a couple of white Europeans, go figure that, in the last part of the 18th century and the early 19th century. Their names were Emmanuel Joseph Saiz and Auguste Comte. However, much of early sociology was based on speculation and a very limited view of society based on the homogeneity of the societies in which these typically white Europeans lived. It wasn't until 1889 that the first empirical sociological study, meaning that the data was collected through scientific research methods, was published. This was The Philadelphia Negro by William Edward Bogart Du Bois, chairperson of the Atlanta University Sociological Laboratory in the United States. Alden Morris writes in his foundational work on W.E.B. Du Bois called The Scholar Denied, W.E.B. Du Bois and the Birth of Modern Sociology, that there is an intriguing, well-kept secret regarding the founding of scientific sociology in America. The first school of scientific sociology in the United States was founded by a Black professor located in a historically Black university in the South. This reality flatly contradicts the accepted wisdom. W.E.B. Du Bois carried many positions and labels in his long lifetime, but foundationally, he was a sociologist. This inevitably informed his political trajectory later in life as well. Next, there's Ida Barnett Wells, lovingly known as Ida B. Wells. I actually met her grandson a couple of years ago, and he autographed her famous book, The Red Record, for me. In The Red Record, published for the first time in 1895, Ida B. Wells provided a powerful and well-documented account of the lynchings of Black people across various states in the U.S. South. Ida B. Wells was not only an incredible journalist, but also a great sociologist. Another fun fact about Ida B. Wells is that she named one of her daughters Ida B. Wells Jr. That was a pretty radical move for a married woman during her time period and ours. Our last feature is Charles Wright Mills, or C. Wright Mills. It is said that C. Wright Mills was one of the most inspiring sociologists of the second half of the 20th century, and I don't disagree with that. Mills was a professor of sociology at Columbia University in the United States from 1946 until his death in 1962. Mills wrote classic sociological studies on post-war American class structure that he described in his books White Collar and the Power Elite. He also spent 2 weeks in 1960 traveling across Cuba and spent 3 days traveling with Fidel Castro himself. From the trip came a book called Listen, Yankee, a report based on interviews with Cubans and both a sociological and Marxist analysis of the Cuban Revolution. In this book, Mills puts forward the following claims. The Cuban Revolution has been misrepresented by ignorance and deliberate lies. That Cuban resentment against the US is based on real grievances. That unless we wake up to our mistakes, we will lose out in Latin America, Asia, and Africa, and that we must not permit our government to make the mistakes of ignorance and arrogance that cost us the respect of so many nations of the world. I also think that the fact that he always rode a motorcycle is pretty rad. Now for our honorable mentions. Joyce A. Ladner, author of The Death of White Sociology, which examines the European dominance of the discipline and its move toward centering class as a central part of sociological analysis. We have Oliver Cromwell Cox, a Trinidadian sociologist based in the US, who argued that racial antagonism was essential to maintaining the capitalist system. And then there's Erica Huggins, Black Panther leader of the Oakland chapter and professor of sociology. There are several other historical and contemporary sociologists of note that you should explore. So, is sociology radical? Well, like other academic disciplines, it depends on how it's taught. Sociology can and has been presented in whitewashed, capitalist, sexist, xenophobic, and racist ways. As we've explored in this presentation, sociology certainly does have a radical foundation and outlook on the world. It's actually hard to find another predominant academic discipline that provides the critical analysis of social systems and systems of power and privilege as sociology. And I think that's pretty radical. Bye for now.